I do want to talk a little bit about Jon Stewart. Shout out to Jon Stewart for really leading the charge on this issue. Let me get the story ready, pull up this bill, or sorry, pull up this article from The Hill, which again really needs to fix its digital layout. It's just such a goddamn eyesore. Anyway, GOP senators block bill expanding care for veterans exposed to toxins. Imagine being such a just a heartless, shameless bastard that you would vote against this. Like, what a disgusting thing to do. Republican lawmakers blocked passage of a bill in the U.S. Senate Wednesday that expands healthcare coverage for military veterans who were exposed to toxins and burn pits during their service. All Democrats and 8 Republicans voted for the Sergeant First Class Health Robinson Honoring Our Pact Act, but the 55 yes votes fell short of the 60 needed to end a filibuster in the Senate. 3 senators did not vote. The PACT Act, which the House passed earlier this month, would enable additional health care coverage for more than 3 million veterans who were exposed to toxic burn pits and Vietnam-era veterans exposed to the deadly herbicide Agent Orange. Senator Pat Toomey said on the Senate floor that he didn't support the bill because it would create $400 billion in unrelated spending, which he called a budgetary gimmick. My concern about this bill has nothing to do with the purpose of the bill, Toomey said. The budgetary gimmick is so unrelated to the actual veterans issue that has to do with burn pit that it's not even in the House version of the bill. So again, you might hear that and say, "Oh, well, what did they put in this bill? Like, why is he so opposed to that budgetary quagmire or whatever the hell he said about it?" Let's take a listen to Jon Stewart, who addressed this complaint on Fox News, no less. Let me pull this up because, of course, you guys might know that Jon Stewart has been leading the charge on this front, and very, very courageously, I might add. So shout out to him. What did you want to say, Zach?
Oh, really quickly, just because I know we're going to hear about this. Look, of course, the United States was doing all kinds of fucked up shit in Vietnam. Gavin and I are not here to make excuses for that, but a lot of these people were drafted. They didn't have the choice to go out there. These people were lied to. They were plucked from the most vulnerable, impoverished communities out there. And this happened again in the aftermath of 9/11. Like, it's not rich kids that have trust funds that are going out to fucking do this shit. They were coaxed into doing some shit that, yeah, Gavin and I definitely don't agree with. I think if they, reflected on, a lot of these motherfuckers don't agree with it either. But the fact of the matter is that they were sent there by their government, oftentimes ordered to. And we have a fucking duty to provide people with fucking healthcare. And if you are the kind of person that thinks healthcare should be universal, then you need to get behind this bill and show some principles. Even though, obviously we massively disagree with the entire military operation that's been performed by the United States. It's important that the left presents itself as anti-war, anti-militant, global imperialism, but not as anti-veteran, because those people we need to reach out to and we need to support.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, obviously, I would also support, Vietnamese victims of Agent Orange receiving reparations and medical care. I would also support, Afghanistani and Iraqi people that were victimized by our wars. I would also support them receiving medical care and reparations. But yeah, we have to keep in mind that these veterans, they are also victims of our war machine, just like those civilians in other countries. We're all human beings, and anyone that was harmed in one of these militaristic imperialist wars is a victim of that system and should receive, reparations in whatever form. And this is a pretty valid form, in my opinion. This isn't even reparations. This is just, paying for their medical care that we imposed upon them in the first place. So anyway, let's take a listen to this first clip. I have another one too that's even better. But here he kind of dispels some of the misinformation, that's been offered up by the Republicans as to why they wouldn't vote for this bill in the first place. Let's take a listen to Stewart coming at you from the car, apparently, on Fox News.
2 months ago today. And I watched your clip from yesterday, and as we say back in Ohio, you were hacked off. Do you still believe that this bill will get done in some form?
Boy, I pray, Bill. It has to. These men and women have suffered for so many years exposed to these, and the government has not fulfilled their promise to them, and it has to get done. These men and women live, they call it scan time. They get a scan every 3 months, and if the scan is good, they get a decent 3 months, and if the scan is bad, and they cannot wait any longer. This delay has to stop. And I want to dispel some of the misinformation that has been put out about this bill. No spending that is not related to veterans has been added to this bill. No last minute budget gimmicks have been added to this bill. This bill is purely based on toxic exposure, healthcare, and benefits to veterans. And by the way, don't take my word for it. Don't take an idiot's word parked on a side street in New York for it. Congress.gov has the text of the bill. Not one word has been added to that bill from the PACT Act bill that the Senate passed 84-14. Not one word has been added to it. There is no added pork. Hunter Biden didn't sneak in and add in unrelated spending in the middle of the night. This bill is exactly as it was, with the removal of one sentence that had to do with taxation and rural medical facilities.
Yeah, John, I
So
heard
the
you
bill
go.
that was passed 84-14.
Sorry about the interruption.
Anyway, there he is, basically, again, dispelling this misinformation and, frankly, the excuses by the GOP senators who blocked the bill, again, citing, extra budgetary gimmickry or whatever the hell they said. And in reality, that's just an excuse. And again, it's the Republicans that always claim to be so pro-veteran, so pro-military. It's absolutely reprehensible, and they should not get away with blocking this bill. Here's another clip that I wanted to spotlight. This one's even better, perhaps. And I don't even understand how he got away with cursing on CNN like this. But let's take a listen here because, again, this is just pretty hard to argue with, pretty hard to deny.
One of his legislative people to come out. You know that Senator Marshall was one of the first supporters of this. Great. So why did he turn it down? Well, we just have to fix this budget issue. What's the budget issue? Because he voted yes for it when that budget issue was in it the first time. So what is it about it now that made him realize, oh, well, there wasn't, the energy behind it. I don't know what that means. What are you fucking talking about? Seriously. Like, what kind of nonsense? I'm standing here with people on oxygen tanks. Like, what are you do they understand that, chips and reconciliation and all these things there are real people who face tragic consequences for their parliamentary fuckery.
And the important thing to remember is they have these diseases because they went to wars that we sent them to. Jon Stewart,
One of his legislative people to come.
Yeah. Really hard to argue with that. And look, guys, like, I don't care that Jon Stewart's a centrist and that he's, okay, he's not right on 100% of issues. When it comes to this shit, he is always on the money. When it comes to this shit, and it's like, yes, the United States needs to provide everybody with all of the health care that they need. Of course. Full stop. But the bill that's being discussed right here has to be supported because, as he pointed out, these people are living in intense pain. As a leftist, as a socialist, this is a bill that I support because it will alleviate those people's suffering. And of course, it's not a panacea. It's not a fix-all solution to all the healthcare ailments in society. Of course not. But in this instance, you can't just be like, oh, war is bad, fuck these veterans. Like, that is not how an empathetic human being responds to this kind of a crisis, right? And we have to, as a left, make sure that we're always showing that, because there's this caricature of us that, like, we don't have any empathy for the troops because we are so correctly, ardently against the war. But we have to also have massive amounts of empathy. It's why I always give shout outs to people like Left Flank Vets. They do really great work reaching out to those veterans, and kind of helping them, understanding, all that kind of shit in a way that, Gavin and I could never relate to because we never went through that experience. Right. So, I just think that this is such a no brainer. And I was happy to see Jon Stewart out here fighting this fight still after all these years.